Right now, there's a quiet shift happening with VA benefits that could already be affecting the size of your monthly check, Sal, and a lot of veterans don't even realize it yet. If you're a veteran receiving disability compensation, DIC, or any VA connected benefit, this matters to you directly. And if you're the spouse or family member of a veteran, this matters to you too. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through three things. First, the confirmed payment increase that's already showing up in VA bank accounts and exactly how much more you should be seeing. Second, a benefits review process quietly working in the background right now that could open the door to new compensation for veterans who were told no in the past. And third, one of the most common and costly mistakes veterans make that causes them to leave real money on the table every single month. Subscribe now for the latest VA, Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and Medicare updates so you never miss an important benefit change. So let's start with what's confirmed because I want to be really clear about the difference between what's official and what's still being discussed. You'll hear a lot of noise online, and not all of it is accurate. The Social Security Administration announced a 2.8% cost of living adjustment, and the VA applied that same 2.8% increase to disability compensation. That increase became effective December 1st of last year, and veterans first saw it reflected in their payment at the end of that month. If you're rated 100% with no dependents, that bump works out to roughly $110 more per month than the year before. If you're rated 70%, you're looking at around $50 more a month. Even veterans rated as low as 10% saw an increase, just a smaller one. This isn't a one-time bonus check. It's baked into your monthly rate going forward, and it applies whether you're receiving standard disability compensation, special monthly compensation, dependency and indemnity compensation for survivors, or TDIU. This adjustment was automatic. You didn't have to apply for it, call anyone, or fill out a form. But automatic doesn't mean error-proof. Every year, the VA processes millions of these adjustments, and every year, a percentage of veterans find their payment didn't update correctly. Maybe a dependent wasn't recalculated. Maybe an old rate carried over by mistake. Pull up your most recent VA payment and compare it against the official 2026 compensation rate table on va.gov for your rating and dependent status. It takes 5 minutes, and if the numbers don't match, that's worth a call to the VA before you assume everything is fine. Now, if you're receiving both VA disability and Social Security retirement or Social Security disability insurance, these are two completely separate systems, and both of them just went up. Your VA compensation is not counted as income for Social Security purposes, and your Social Security benefit doesn't reduce your VA compensation. Veterans sometimes worry that receiving both means one benefit will offset the other. For the vast majority of veterans, that's simply not true. They're both tax-free or low-tax income streams that stack on top of each other. The one area where things get more complicated is if you're also receiving military retirement pay alongside VA disability, because that's where concurrent retirement and disability pay, or CRSC, comes into play. And that program also received this same increase, but the way it's calculated is different. So if that applies to you, it's worth double checking your specific numbers rather than assuming. Subscribe now for the latest VA, Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and Medicare updates so you never miss an important benefit change. If you're finding this helpful, hitting like and subscribing genuinely helps this channel keep putting out clear, accurate information for veterans and retirees instead of the confusing stuff you find scattered across the internet. Okay, let's keep going because the next part is something a lot of veterans have never even heard of, and it could matter more than the COLA increase for some of you. Under the PACT Act, the VA doesn't just set a list of presumptive conditions once and leave it alone. There's a built-in requirement under what's called Section 902 of the law for the VA to keep reviewing new scientific evidence and potentially add more conditions to that presumptive list on a recurring cycle. This August marks 4 years since the PACT Act became law, which triggers another one of these mandatory reviews. Right now, VA advisory committees are actively examining dozens of potential conditions tied to burn pit exposure, Camp Lejeune water contamination, and other toxic exposures veterans dealt with during service. I want to be very careful here and separate fact from speculation. A condition being reviewed is not the same as a condition being approved. Nothing has been finalized yet, and until the VA formally publishes a rule adding a condition to the presumptive list, you cannot file a claim based on it as if it were already presumptive. If you have a toxic exposure claim that was denied in the past, maybe years ago, maybe recently, and your condition later becomes presumptive, that denial doesn't have to be permanent. You can file what's called a supplemental claim using VA Form 20-0995, and the fact that your condition is now presumptive can serve as the new evidence needed to reopen your case. Veterans who assume a past no is final are sometimes sitting on thousands of dollars in retroactive benefits they never went back to claim. The VA has also been reviewing some prior denials on its own initiative. But here's the honest truth: you don't want to sit around waiting for that. If you served somewhere with known toxic exposure and you were denied before the PACT Act expanded coverage, it costs you nothing to ask a veteran service officer to take another look at your file. Now, here's a detail that surprises even veterans who've been dealing with the VA system for years. Presumptive status doesn't mean the VA stops scrutinizing your claim entirely. What changes is what you have to prove. You no longer have to establish that your service caused the condition, but the VA still schedules a compensation and pension exam to confirm your diagnosis and determine how severe it is, because that severity is what actually sets your rating and your payment amount. Missing that exam is one of the single most common reasons a valid, presumptive eligible claim still gets denied. So if you take nothing else from this section, take this. If VA schedules an exam, go to it or call immediately to reschedule if something comes up. Skipping it can undo months of progress on an otherwise strong claim. Let's talk about something else that trips people up, especially veterans who've been rated for a long time and haven't looked closely at their file in years. Your disability rating isn't necessarily permanent. The VA can schedule a re-examination to see whether a condition has improved, and for some veterans, that re-examination affects their monthly payment. Now, there's an important exception a lot of veterans don't know about. If you're rated 100% permanent and total, or if you've held a stable rating for 20 years or more, or if you're over a certain age, you're generally protected from most future re-examinations. If you fall into one of those categories and the VA sends you a re-examination notice anyway, that's worth pushing back on. It may have been scheduled in error, and a call to your veteran service officer can clarify your protected status. Most veterans focus entirely on their disability rating and forget to check whether they qualify for additional benefits layered on top of it that most people never even apply for. Special monthly compensation, for example, exists specifically for veterans with additional severe impacts: loss of use of a limb, being housebound, needing regular aid and attendance from another person. And it can add a significant amount on top of your regular disability payment. You have to specifically apply for it, and it requires its own supporting evidence, usually from a treating physician. Veterans United and disability advocacy groups estimate a meaningful percentage of eligible veterans have never filed for it, simply because no one told them it existed separately from their base disability rating. If you have a serious service-connected condition and you've never asked your doctor or a veteran service officer whether you qualify for SMC, that's a conversation worth having this month, not someday. Subscribe now for the latest VA, Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and Medicare updates so you never miss an important benefit change. There's one more thing worth mentioning before we wrap up, and it's about dependents. If your family situation changed, you got married, had a child turned 18 and is still in school, or a dependent passed away, and you never updated that with the VA, your payment may not reflect your current household. Adding a dependent can increase your monthly payment, sometimes by a meaningful amount, depending on your rating. And it's a simple form to update. This is one of those quiet gaps that cost veterans real money for years without them realizing it, simply because life changed and the paperwork didn't catch up. The confirmed piece here is the 2.8% cost of living increase that took effect at the end of last year. It's already in your payments. It applies across disability compensation, DIC, SMC, and TDIU. And it's worth taking 5 minutes to confirm your specific payment matches the official rate table for your situation. The part still developing is the PACT Act's ongoing review of new presumptive conditions. And while nothing new has been finalized, it's a genuine reason to revisit any past toxic exposure denial rather than assume the door is permanently closed. And the single most important action you can take today, out of everything we covered, is this: check whether you're receiving every benefit you actually qualify for, not just your base rating, but special monthly compensation, updated dependent status, and anything tied to conditions that may now be treated differently than when you first filed. That review costs you nothing, and for a lot of veterans, it uncovers money they didn't know they were owed. You earned these benefits through your service, and staying a little informed is really the best way to make sure you're getting everything you're entitled